guys and girls, how's it going? Welcome to my first video on this channel, and we're gonna talk Lotus hypercars. Let's get into it. Alright guys, so you guys might have heard of the Type 130 project that Lotus was working on, and it finally has a name. Lotus is calling their first hypercar the Evija, which is a really cool name. It comes from Hebrew, and it's supposed to mean the first in its existence and living and to breathe, which is really cool. I think it's a very unique name, and it just sounds so exotic and kind of very different from some of the stuff that we hear, and that's very cool they went to Hebrew for that. So this car has only been in development for 20 months and they're already testing it, which is really insane that they got through it that fast, and it looks amazing, as you guys can tell. You know, with these new hypercars that are coming out, they all kind of are definitely designed by the wind tunnel and by computers, and so you can see that, but they did it in a really elegant and good looking way still, and I think it's a very beautiful car, definitely one of the better looking ones I've seen. And as you guys can see, we have these really huge wind tunnels on the side that are Venturi tunnels, which we'll get into in just a second. So the really cool thing with this car is, of course, it is all electric. So it's not hybrid, it's not anything else, it's fully electric, and it's Britain's first entrance into the hypercar market. So that's really cool. And the cool thing with this is it's a usable electric car. Now, it is the most powerful production car that's going to come out in terms of horsepower, with 1,972 horsepower, which is just insane. Which is comparatively, that is like twice a McLaren P1's horsepower. It's crazy. Like that was like 2013, the Holy Trinity was out, and now literally 7 years later we've doubled the horsepower. So it's very interesting, and we'll get into the motors and all that in just a minute. So this car is of course built in Norfolk. There's 130 units that are going to be made, so it is going to be a smaller run, which is kind of cool, but you know, so I guess it'll be pretty rare and pretty tough to see one, so hopefully we'll get to catch some, hopefully at some sort of coffee and cars or something. There are 4 motors, of course, that run each wheel, which allows for torque vectoring. So of course, like a lot of the cars that we've seen, this is going to continue with that, which is definitely really good with that much horsepower and insane torque figures. You want to be able to put all that down. So as I mentioned before, it does have 1,972 horsepower and 1,253 pounds-feet of torque, guys, which is crazy. So in metrics, that's 2,000 PS and 1,700 Newton meters of torque, which is crazy. So that's 1,000 horsepower more than a McLaren P1. That is absolutely unfathomable to think about, and I can't imagine how fast this is going to be. But it is also the lightest of the electric hypercars. So we have like the Rimac C2 and some of these other cars that are coming out now, which are insanely heavy because these batteries are just so heavy, and that we can't really do anything about that right now. But Lotus has managed to keep their, you know, light philosophy, and though, you know, naturally right now electric cars are heavy, this car only weighs about as much as an Aventador at about 3,700 pounds. Which is really not that bad, considering this is a completely still new technology, and we're still figuring out how to make batteries lighter and to be able to fit them in the right places for center of gravity and things like that. And so that's really cool that it still weighs only as much as an Aventador, which really isn't that bad by today's standards. So the interesting thing with the way that the batteries are placed in this car is it's not hidden away like Tesla does, like under the floor or just way at the bottom. It actually looks, they're proud of their batteries, so they stuck it up in a place where you can see it through the rear window like a normal engine block in a Lamborghini or Ferrari or McLaren that you would normally see. So you can literally just look through the back window and actually see the batteries and the electric technology there, which is really cool. I like that they're like, you know, exposing it. It's not like, you know, tucking it away and that you never really see actually what runs your car. And now they're, you know, they're actually showing off the design. That's really interesting and very unique for sure. So the car comes with 5 driving modes, and those modes adjust 20 different parameters. And it is a liquid-cooled EV setup. The entire powertrain is liquid-cooled, which allows it to keep its peak performance longer, and without it won't experience as much degradation For example, currently you can't fully take something like a Tesla around the Nürburgring and without, draining some of the battery and losing power and through heat soak and things like that. And so because this is liquid cooled, it's going to be able to maintain its performance a lot longer than today's electric cars. So back to the bodywork. So the bodywork of this car, as you guys can see, those two giant tunnels on the side of the car that follow all the way through to the rear. These are 3/4 Venturi tunnels that allow air to pass through the car. They're calling this a porous design, which is very interesting, and it follows all the way through these gaping holes in the back, which is really, really cool to see. And I'm sure it does quite a bit for aerodynamics. Instead of side mirrors, as you guys can see, there are no wing mirrors on this car. They're following the trend of using cameras, which is really cool because it also keeps some sleek lines on the side of the car, yet also probably avoiding things like blind spots and things like that, because they're going to have cameras that pull out from the side of the car and, or just tuck back in whenever you're not using them. So it keeps clean lines and is, I'm sure, much better for aerodynamics. Now there's of course a fully digital dash. As you guys can see, it's very gorgeous and fully screen, which is pretty neat and something expected today, especially of a hypercar, and just the cool futuristic aspect of an electric hypercar. So of course the chassis is fully carbon fiber and it does have a monocoque system, and the monocoque weighs only 284 pounds. So it's amazing. So by making the entire car so lightweight, they're able to account for the weight of the batteries and all the other electric technology that has to go into it. And so it's still able to be the lightest electric hypercar out there, which is very impressive. So it's a 284 pounds. The entire monocoque only weighs 284 pounds. Plus the rest of the car is fully carbon fiber, of course, and it has inboard suspension, so that is bolted directly to the tub. So it minimizes the number of panels and pieces that have to fit together, which of course adds rigidity. So that's really, really neat. And now the insane speed stats. Of course, I know you guys have been waiting for this. So in these types of cars, 0 to 60 really is almost irrelevant these days. It is of course under 3 seconds, and it's gonna be nuts. I can't imagine what 1,900 horsepower is gonna feel like. But the real kicker here is the 0 to 186 mile per hour stat, which is, get this, 8.6 seconds. This car can get to 186 miles per hour in 8.6 seconds. That is mind-blisteringly fast. Probably mixed some metaphors there, but that's crazy. That's like a Bugatti Chiron does it in 13.6. This thing is 5 seconds faster than a Bugatti Chiron, which we never thought we'd say that statement ever. But top speed is of course above 200 miles per hour, which is also very impressive for an electric motor. And that's going to be really, really cool to see, especially when people start developing electric technology more, to see what kind of top speeds we can achieve with that, especially without the vibrations and the sort of loss of energy from a normal gasoline engine and a combustion engine. It's going to be really cool to see what we can do in the future eventually with top speed runs in electric, but is of course above 200, which is very good. And we have, of course, the price tag. $2.1 million, but I mean that kind of fits where we would expect in the hypercar market today. So it's not totally unexpected, but yeah, that's pretty. I feel like that fits in pretty well with its competitors and stuff. And so at least it'll be, but this will probably be one of the more rare hypercars at only 130 units. So the coolest part about all this though is that you can actually use this as a real electric car. It's not that something where it has so much horsepower and so much torque that you can drive it 10 miles and then it's out of charge. This thing can actually get 250 miles of range and can recharge fully in 18 minutes. So you could literally road trip this thing across the country or something, because every time you just make a stop, you're gonna stop probably within 250 miles. And you just, go to the restroom and, get a snack or whatever, 18 minutes are gone. And so this is actually a really cool, amount of time. It charges so quickly that I hope they can implement this kind of technology in more consumer cars eventually, so that driving electric cars and road tripping electric cars is more of a sort of practical topic, and eventually when we move to that technology as a whole, it'll be a lot easier to just be confident and reduce range anxiety. So that's really cool. Of course, we're going to see all this cool new technology in hypercars as it trickles down, but this looks like an amazing contender, and we'll definitely have to follow up and see what happens when they actually start releasing more and more stuff about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think in the comment sections, and drop a like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed. I'm definitely going to be posting a lot more stuff on this channel, reviews, other car videos, and news, of course, and just anything car related. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.